So thank you all for coming, and everybody on YouTube, thank you. And we'll do our opening prayers. I just need to clean up there we go. Okay, so we'll start with the altruistic motivation. I'll recite in English. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in a state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. The action Bodhicitta prayer. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. The long refuge prayer. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Bodhisattva vow. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. The short refuge prayer we'll recite twice in English, and we'll ask Geshe to recite it in Tibetan, please.
Samje choda soje chonang la jangchu pado dane japson che dag jingso jibe chonam jen rola penshir samje rupa sho.
In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the four immeasurables, Geshe La, would you recite the four immeasurables, please?
Ma nang kha ta nyambe semje tamje dewa ta dewe jodan dembar chuji dungye ta dungye je jodan tewar chuji dungye mebe dewa ta mendewa chuji niri chadam nida trawe tamnyola ne par chuji.
May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Thank you, Geshe La. So, let me see. Okay. So tonight we're continuing with the 37 Bodhisattva practices. And last time we had a very good discussion about the Dalai Lama, the anniversary of his birth. So we spent our time last week talking about that. It was very good. And so tonight, I think we'll be able to resume getting back to the 37 practices. So we left off on number 9, so number 10 and 11 is where we'll begin. But before we begin, does anybody have any comments or questions? Geshe La, do you have anything that you would like to add or something to remark about before we proceed?
Nothing.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Yes, Alex.
Well, reading these verses over and over, I can't help but notice they seem to come in kind of alternation, like positive, negative, positive, negative. You know, like what we adopt or what we stay away from. Does Geshe also find the same like the structure? They say they seem to be logically arranged. They're not just randomly following one after another.
Okay, thank you. That's a good observation. Dorji, would you translate that, please? You're muted, Dorji.
Lani sodi ma TGB didan de kola ta kurang samsunda wuchi de sha so de tama da ma ngoni ma andi chin do dika so ji gi ji len de wa yo ba ji chi le ya ji ko ji yo ba o yang ga hi ji ji gi ji le pan de wa de pan da shu che bo je gi yo ba tindi ge pati shot ka so ri tin da tin jung da bo tindi da wuchi chwa chung song mo de la do la so Yes, thank you.
Okay. Did Dorji have a comment about, excuse me, did Geshe La have a comment? Did he notice that alternation between the affirmative and the positive and the negative? However,
단다 지 가르쳐 그래 지양 따다 레세야 야 지쇼的지지 마레세야 드니 파츠 ndi ndoya chindwa wo tir tola ya mise ge gihila gunsunda ke yana ke soya yana sti tola 간절라인 거 좋죠. 등에 세보진 거쳐 마서 안 좋지선다. 단다 this is in the context of 37th practices, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Tanda di kuri ge sonya di dilagure. Tanda di shochi ni yapo chindu si ya shochi ni mendu se ge tindi pa chuni ja chindu gudo. Can you Alex, can you rephrase it and ask the questions or make your comments in more I wasn't able to exactly explain it, please.
I mean, when you first read the 37 Bodhisattva practices, it seems like they're not connected to each other. They're kind of like randomly following. But then once you kind of see how relate to each other, one is talking about what to keep. The one is talking what to abandon. One is talking about what to follow, and the other one what's taking, like what do we want to abandon. So and it's alternating this way, and it seems to be that I mean maybe they are maybe there is a certain kind of like higher pattern that they follow, like certain kind of parameters or certain like for example for thoughts that turn the mind, kind of what is underlying kind of pattern there that we may see that's related to other Buddhist doctrine principles.
Yes, thank you. Kuri disungud tanda lalin sodiuma thoma ma tawi ko so ji le shida jinjawa yena sansanda wuchi tindi chosons. Tayina ya chama ma ji tawi ndu kurang sembanalo karu choslana 디 가르스고래 드리파치 조탄다고 지여와 쇼용디야지 좀진다고 지여레베 스페나 가힐 가릴랑고래 가르도고래 양 가릴 제인 주고래 양 가릴라 제인 주주요 마레세가 지 할라마수나다 페체 structures고도 코란조 소야의 structures나 가리는 지 좀진다고 지 이 토니 까메난단다 드리 토니 지 르베스 나중에 에 좀다 냉한다고 지 이바나 코기야 측지 그 토니지 여러와야 쇼로 가르드리드나고 지 여러와 와다티 나히기 쇼용고 토라 단달라린 소디마 딜라 지 람루치다 좀진다고 지다 드리지 토니 땅안수가 하고야다마 도야데지 공부된 바들이 토니지 여반다고 지 이나서 디코니가 송거열데 일단 단다디 알리스 그 담보 소야지 도와줘줘 다 란레 소디마데 칸마 또 스타운데 단당안서 측제 주지 도와 말레기요레 콘리게 다파 오마 가마레얀 데와 요덴조 마치 가마디마 시에 차주 잠만에 월마 상조 요덴조 안에 용 차창지 망원나 지 하나마소나 코랑게 란레 소디게 마게 차창게 좋아한다 냐무퉁에 존다 던디지 코리게 초된도와 다디 란레 소디메게 냥간다고데 체랑게 가나 간산지 투상 예거요 받다 챙거요 베다레스 Yes, so I think you are on spot in terms of what you felt about the structures of the 37th practices. And so it started out in that way, and there are times where you started asking questions and you started thinking about it. So the way you have felt about it is right on spot. 아니? 근데 제가 최장안서 란레 소디메게 죄자님보데 가르를 세바이나 단다 이게 가랑도 쇼로가 님바데나를 요래 가르세나 대송으로 와라 담보데랑 가랑서 대체 강규 추근 로원 메시전 로웨tonla 지도 전자바 라마초다 젠르징고라 따도 고송규베 찬셀로 송로와데 최저대체 아나 장바 담자데 가르세나타 라네 소디마게 도도 님보데 가르시기 예스데 펜덴 존네 조베 삼제나 담추 둘레 존테 대안에 대에 라네 헬라 라레페 자세 남제 라레 헤바 차르세 자세 장추 셈바 남지게 산제제 공파 yendu tatu je thunge ke sanje ke gomba de druba chebala jase shanju sembe lane la ra le gu du jase shanju sembe lane de yapo chi heba ina samji ke gomba thop thugu du tinde yimba songza nge gi hia de zowa de ta jase shanju sembe ke lane de hi gi yin se ta lane de sunju sodun se na ngara so tanda nimbo su dune sunju sodun ala tus hia de re der ta when you look at the 37 practices, the second stanzas where it says, attached to your loved ones, you are stirred up like water, hating your enemies like you burns like fire. In the darkness of confusion, you forget what to adopt and discard. Give up your homeland. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. So that is a kind of a good summarize of the 37 practices. And then the ultimate ways to Bodhisattvas or to the attainment is the 37 practices. So it is in detail, it is elucidated in much details with all the 37 practices. 다 디 나로라 단다 간소 그 시에견조 간소 그 드링 로덴조 또소 나로라 나라조 쳇세 그러고 미기 꾸인죠다 미기 초위 그 트나로라 지 빼나 나라조 파신 주세한다 짐바다 수팅다 저바다 쩐드다 삼데다 셔러세 때소 미셀레요 말어 다 때소 월마 림비 진도 레데연조 빼나 나라조 자 최선의 야바이나 삼제주 공파 두고 상바 이나야 되게 jolan roya ke lane kar ke gu yu me de ma che ngarang zo mitsin dil dichi ji che gu yu na yang chi kangyen la dongle kande chi che gu yu me rang ropa la zosen kande si che gu yu me penchu chi ropa la yang chi chamthung ge che ta to so sama de kande si yime te so sama de ta ma rimbi gyun do wol ma teng res.
So we started out with the motivations, but the more things will be coming up as we go on, and there will be things like how we face obstacles in our life, and some other good practices, so on. So those are much to are I will follow up. It will comes along, but so far we have been focusing on certain things.
Oh yeah, ta tin da jo tin du zamba ne che zang nge ge pa zhuwa ji zhe ya gen da ngan zo ge ci ji hyolo ka somba ji yor wa hyolo ka somba de ge gar song yor es de brother lens gi da di song ya de ngan zo ta tan da do do chi ne ma wo de la man de wa ji de gi da.
Okay, Brother Lance, can you elaborate on what was stated for the third stanza or the third lines?
Oh de du du ji.
Third or the third practices?
Sure, just give me
in a like in a brief.
Yes, I'll be able to screen share that. Just one moment. The third verse is, when harmful places are abandoned, disturbing emotions gradually diminish. Without distraction, virtuous endeavors naturally increase. Being clear-minded, definite understanding of the Dharma arises. Resorting to secluded places is the Bodhisattva's practice.
Thank you.
Te ko te ko de re do ngarang zo mulu rung bo che de danjo gu mulu rung bo che yin ba ta danjo gu mulu rung bo che de den yo ba ji che gu re se te ko re do e de.
Diresha tachi karine toguya ta ani susug semg senkham gaji yachi duat so sama ma rimhi ma nyam joguya pa wotni da buchi koresha.
Under da nganzo ta igi nge ti hyolo ka higa chen le go ro ba hyolo ka higa chen le undi hyolo ka ni ba de la chong ba tan cha se gre ta nge ge jase shangju sem be ge la le so du ko ni he ge yin da song ya jo ro wa te he ya te ya ngana ti ko kom pa to bi jol ro ya ge che du ins sanje ti tang ge hyo sem ba de je ta hyolo ka song ba de ge gar song go re se na Tenjo Chuchen Nekar Todun the Dagin Kovi Sole Daji Ninda Tsendo Yewa Mepa Nense Gomba Jase Lani Yin Sede Manzo ke Milurumbo Chechi Top Sale Milurumbo Chechi Top Sadi the Picho de Kawatangore Seon de Sendik Saju Tonjo da Tende Chambala Tandewa Mayimba Che Seran Mambo Yoba Sonda Seran Mambo Chiki Chedo Lega Chigi in the Singing Zone of De Somba Che Ane Sholoka Hibadi Karasore Sena 다 던지 그 전다 전부 중이 그 미지 임바이나 물rum보치 배셔 던지를 땅가 이나 아니 쇼로시바디 그 가르송레세나 년주 쇼란 더차 쳤다요 다유 쇼라 헤담 메담 바르세야 티파손네 란도 제비 뜨무 문화제 파유뽕아 자세라네 인세데 던데레도 중에 그 미지 임바이나 다 첸들 현차 장바 제대한지다 랑기 지 년다 가르세로 다세네 던데 해당 휴 첨부决定 여딩의 미지 임바이나 대단다데 루투고 말에 대파 도구 레송을 다 쇼로가 히바디게 다 쇼로가 nga바디게 가르송레세나 다 파유데 뽕고고 여나 대사진 구구여래 당한소 간데치기 인세데 아니 웬발라 땡고레서 다 직셈데 간주 마중 남인 로데서 던데 지 쇼린 로데서 던데 그 산에 질 마임바체네 수소 그 산에 당 코유데 티세 웬반다고 질 땡토와 제스 아니 효로강 디 제마데 그 두바데 그 가르송인 거서나 다 웬바 땡게이나 아니 가르치는 왼바 땡고래 던데전에 직 가르치고래서도 어느 첸데 지보가 단다 주대요 말이스 첸데 지보 상대 때려 당고 그래스 세른 듣자마체 세르 심마다 디 심마다 당아서 메세티를 차샤바이나 로작 나로로 수수 다디 지거와 산이 ता 마음 로슈마 ता 던데세는 가라서 지 다디 지거와 된낭시 전에 세른 망보지를 편토야 윤조지게 던데지라 안에 산로 땅에 안에 첸데 장발라 산로 땅대와 마임바 전에 던데기 단다 두토와 제세네 세들려 땅송로와 다 던데 제원데 안에 다 던데 쟁에 그 메들라 가르 고그레스나 담보 랑가 땡에 야보지 고그레 네 조보 냠바데 빵고그레 조보 잠보지를 땡 고그레스 안에 대자 마체 안에 군쇼송 장로 야보지 ngo 해바 제네 장로 야보지 고그레스 안에 데네니 제부 중우세야 데 년로다 년송 되게 냥가데 하고와 제네 라니 델 메제 까토와 제고레스 대자 마체 안에 년로 델 타네 메당 류르 토네 오지 이나야 데네 타바 마토는 지금 말에 타바 토구군도 마토 지게 라다 메길레 이나 강인 두와 세데 잠바네 타바 토야라 산노땅 안에 데네네 간소게 단다 죄작가보 그 상주게 세 마제는 리터 문두세사 때가 레로여다 근데 진주
다 망보 쇼치 송스 땡고니 주봇 yes, so it follows pretty systematically regarding companions and in terms of good the companions to keep, as well as the seeking refugees, and then also so it went through step by steps, and then like how you remain in situations, and then finally like how you attain the nirvanas and so on. So now we will focus in the following in terms of how to cultivate bodhisattvas. 둔두지 송로시다니 시에 보여서요.
다들 다 대본다 희위해비 코인데
Okay.
때때는 버래 당한저 제장 데네는 말레운데 머체디게 가르치고래서 머체인데 짜첨보데 비교 가와 땅고래서 돼 지제 아니 데네네 머체 짜첨보데 비교 땅고고 연나 야보질 땅고고 연나 센들 지보 차대야다 현대야 근데 마임바 제네 지 센드 지보를 현차대 빵고래서 니제 다 손바들 가르랑으로서나 센들 현차대 빵고히어나 아니 이제 다지 소소고 님부 두고 삼사지 임바이나 님부 두사가 산에도 소대야 디지 야보지 제마도 지게 지 상해승이 요데살에 님부 두투고 말했을 텐데 임바 손자 산에데 웬반다 왔다 텐데다 왔지 소소소소 뒤쳐들 간다 고유들 야보지 따세네 다 대존라 손여다.
So talked about how would you lead your current life? Would you have so much attachment, and then how you can avoid it, and that lead you to more seclusions, secluded place, and so on?
What the Navache, that send the Koyula ta seunde, no Koyula tendetabina, ta Koyuda Yapo Yovache, send the Chibola, Shencha Majengi, Metendeji imbaina, Kola Langa Tengi Yapochi Raguramato, Susu Chibogiti, Hakogu Marvata, Nimbo Landanda with the Lojon of the Masona Kande in against Gugurwa.
So there's a need for, so there's a need for teacher arises. So when you are left alone, you might not be able to follow it, but you need to have a guidance, teachers. And then who would you seek as teachers to guide you?
제가 소소가 미유데 dru야라 개징의 그 조보 냠바 파판스 되게 소소가 미유다 팀비게 나 단다 dru야라 소 펜통의 그 조장볼 댄스 대자마체 아니 개개 여보질 댄스네 때때 소송으로와.
So avoiding bad companions, keeping with a good company, and then seeking or the right teachers. So those are what is explained.
ane giwi kini chili tenpa ina suso ke sim tine kar rogo gore sena chandro yapo chi yogu gores kar sena nga maung pala ngan tha gusa de kar yin sena ngesong gu dungye tang khowi dungye tang ane te chang je ma che tha ibe ma ge semje thamji khowi dungye len tha goya te ngan tha gusa di yin te thaya ge che do ane chapsu de solon rogo gore sena koncho song la chapsu rogo go dus suso chibun tha thu gu mundu was Timba sonza chandro gugre, chandro de levre.
So it is something that individually cannot do. And so you need to have refugees in the triple gyms. And that's where the refugee part arises.
Oh, te cheunde ta chandro de leunde, chandro de rone, chasun rone, ta kar chegure seunde, ta chebu chandro de leunde, chebu chungu ge chandro, chebu ring ge chandro, ta chebu chembo ge chandro, shanchu ge same seade, ane te kan la ledo chigore. Tende inde chambane, chebu chungu ge chandro se keja heunde, ta nganso dungen le tha gugure a chanja res. Yina ya tambo tela ngaranso 동해 체휴데 강에 체휴데 가와레 세운데 녜송고 동해들에 도와스 다 텔레다 인지민지 타고고도 삼사지 간소 단다다 타데요레데 마음발은 예바 메와 임바 손다 텔레 타고고도 삼사다버지 담보니 휴타보 제구레 세야데 안 제부 충고고디 해고요레스
제부 충을 인지 간질라고도
다땡미히 간다 만다자테 인지 예상이 럭하는 그거를 주죠.
Okay. Yes. So it talks about how to cultivate bodhicitta and the Jebu Chungo. I don't know. Brother Lenz probably can help in terms of that there were two lesser beings and the greater being. Are there two things?
Lesser person, beginner.
Oh, lesser person, beginner, and then the another two things. How you can become the other ones?
Well, I'm not sure how to respond to that, but I'll let Geshe try and explain that, please.
Okay. Yeah.
That they Kanda Manda Chanti Sem the those Jenny Sanu Tanda Naga Song Yorta Kanda. Ngaranzo Tagusa de Nensong with Dungeli Chi Tagu, Tanda Tadi San and Anso Hambata of Cheder Matochige, Maumbayan Le Tu Mares, Leg Mares, Hetsu Tigu Amare, Timba Sonsa, Nensong with Dungeli, Tunaya Rani Namogo and Taro Chena Samsa Sanu Chigure. Tai Nensong with Dungeli Tawa Mase. Mela dunge talhada mela ya dunge yoba sonza tela and tagu do samne sanuchi tangu gore ta te thana rani chibu te chana thana rigi mundu ama pala pinja nye nyewa tendin dewa yonjo to so yang tagu gundu so chibu re na rigi mundu sane tewa sanu tangu de na chibu chembo se de le ta chu tendin risare.
Yeah. So the greater being is one who has a desire for the a strong desire for the liberations of all, including your families and all others. So you need to have that kind of a greater desire for the elevations and the suffering of those people.
Oh yeah, tende chele unde tanganzo cheta jebu chembo de gato da shanju ge seng ge katu la ngano samde te wale de yose tatel tanda ngano ke gyo ta inare ngende ne he ta inare tata chena ba yani yandun driwa chero che da ne tata ji suso ge lo lo du chene le ngres.
So we have we have come to a point where we will talk more about how to inculcate bodhicitta, but so far, if you understood the translation well or not, so far we have all been talking about all those things that went ahead of us.
Okay, very good. And we continue now, and we can circle back later on. We can, come back to these kinds of questions and see how a structure reveals itself within the 37 practices. And I think that was Alex's basic question was, is there a structure in place in the 37 practices? Okay. So what I will do is I'm going to screen share again, and I'm going to recite for everybody's benefit 10 and 11, these two verses together. So the first one, number 10, when mothers who have been kind to one since beginningless time are suffering, what's the use of one's own happiness? Therefore, generating the mind of enlightenment in order to liberate limitless sentient beings is the Bodhisattva's practice. And number 11, all suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. The perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. Therefore, completely exchanging one own's happiness for the suffering of others is the Bodhisattva's practice. So if Geshe can comment on that, please.
The shole chupa the chuchi red wala. Oh, tikon changi dihi jenasam.
Laso. Ta ande da chocho. Te sem ti je teche gorda. Karsa wanso tingin jita maso na pege de sem ti je ne gorda. Ne so na nga cho ti danda de goji chöyung gorda. Ta karso re na thome dyne dala tsewa chen so ro chi khurang. Khoa thoma me pane danda bardola ane susola tsewa yodinge ge. Ma deso mana du na song wala kesi suso khowale thabache suso dungele thabache narjo chajo khakonjo che tendre ke ngarang so ke chi du mayin bi choda sa da chi ma da de so gen jipa de suso lo chön mewa che kanda manda che suso lo hyama chön mewa che dungye chön mewa che pe di Kagyu dehi jipan rabu tendeji chungpa ina ta susula tendeji chungpa chagya susula tendeji chungpi kaptela tendeji chungne dewi dusyo tela susuka ama de kesi dunge tena lhungde yana ta karche gu resi ay ta tiwar dili warta susu dunge le thawa che susuka ama dunge na lhungde na karche gire aba dunge na lhungde na karche gire ane pinja tiso dunga na lhungde na kari chigire se undi tsambane thome tuyne dala tsewa che mana duna songrwala cheza ama tiso inche te ta dunga na lhade wa ina tedu kasu cho kari chigi inbe sila ta di tuwa dire ta.
So it is a questions. Even if you are freed from the sufferings, but if your mothers and your other loved ones are still going through suffering, then what would you do in that situations?
Ta tendi kasu la ngune tane ngarang so tsewa ngune yu nge di inba ina pama la tsewa ngune yu pinja la tsewa ngune yu nami la tsewa ngune yu zachang la tsewa ngune yu nge di inba ina ta nga dunge le thana ya chocho dunge le matha na tsawa ni nindrita mindu us ta kanda manta cha changma dunge le thar gugu ndu se ya ta semde le warta.
So a true love would have this kind of situations. So even if I am freed from the sufferings, but if not my mothers and my relatives, so what would be the use of my own happiness? And so until all of them, including myself, are freed from sufferings, what I can do, what and what is the way forward? So that is the kind of strong inclinations and belief.
Oh yeah, tende yonde deshe thai semje daji sher chanchu semje jase lalin yin se yonde ta rani tsam mache rangin treyo kun do dune hena semba pe yapu janrungi mechi yimba ina ran dewan depa ta dunge mendepa tena yi ge senje kun tsama rani lan dewa yo pata rani le tsewa yo pata rani le shambo chenyungi yimba shada yimba sonza konsoya dunge madda dunge le tharaji che matunan digi mendu ta tsangma dunge le thatu ya dingi miyu yin se ya de ta chanchu ku sem sena ter ta.
So the practice of Bodhisattva is that until everyone is freed from suffering, there is no other way. So such a strong commitment and uh, uh, and belief or thought, which is the practice of Bodhisattva. Myself alone is not enough. I have such a strong desire to alleviate the sufferings of all of them, which is regarded as the practice of Bodhisattvas.
Oh, tere. Che zang jamchu ku sem se ya juyorwa ta keta chenpo de ngarang zo Bodhisattva sena Bodhicitta sena da tenda yu jamchu ku sem sena ma sena ko lo jirwa shiba jirwa kui miyu de kari re se kurwa ngarang zo nangju ngarang zo misanji imba na pama suso suso lo miyu juyorwa dedu miyu de kari singari sena mitsendi chibo lo sano shi ta ne nami sasang sangma loge saya inare tuya inare labda dhaya inare chi mitse chi ki chi naya chaya ndawa chi chungsana dedu tsamba ni chi roso taya inare shilo lumba yindala chamshan chi rogo na ya teki daya ki che do nguindab chi tati cheya teso tsangma de kanda mitse chi la chi tati ndawa chasang chi pama chi ki chegir wata ten nangshi ki miyu chi sin ne ko leka chi le ne tende miyu chi sin che ne ko leka chi le ya chi tam bechon chi che ya de mitse chi ki miyu chi ke che ne lo chi yorwa ten nangshi chi ki shamchu ki sem se ya de ki miyu de kar re se pa ina mitse ndil chi po ma yin pa chi lo son yin nga chi po ma yin pa ta nga rang su dunge tele pedin tawa chi ma je na nan digi mundu se chi kange chi re de kya san ne ta dunge le pedin tawa de che gu gu du samsa ke lo chi ki che ne tem yu sun de nge tela ta chanchu ki sem se war ta.
So the Bodhicitta mind is something that is not for the temporary. Whenever you plan something, you have a goal for like a temporary goal. So the Bodhicitta, the mind, has a goal of ultimate attainment of Buddhahood or sufferings. And it is not only for a few years, but forever. So that is the kind of the aspirations that the Bodhicitta has.
che zang tende che wende nga rang su tsewa singen de Kagyu na gong gu gu res ma gong pa ina tsewa di je rogu duwa nga zo asa rogu de ma sunu yu rogu duwa ta nga zo nyamnyung rogu ti si yorwa ta nga rang su mi genpa ya cha yunde su su ge buku yinpi kala pama nyam tu tsewa kandre yu tende ne ya lo ni hyu tang ya tik ti si tala ya pa yunde pama nyam tu tsewa di katre si legi do pama yubi kala rada tene pama gomba zo hyor chene dos chele unde tambo tawa zonro de gomba zonro de ngoyanda wata tende na semba choya da ngama shangchong chegen jo de hiwo chen unde ko kange ji yungo do wa tene rimbe te pa jendo ne ane kansan chila ne tange ma ji yo samsa chen ma do jendo go do wa 인도 잠바네 ngaranso 제와 생에 되게 소소로 능에 세고 말에 까딘다 제와 생에 때 샹종 젠조데 양내 양도 공부 그랬어.
So we need to meditate on the love that has been showered upon us by our parents. We have a tendency to, fade away the memories of the loved one, and when something happens, we suffers. But then, as time passes, we gradually forget, and the memory of the early time faded away. So, what is required here is meditating more on the true love and the kindness is shown to each of us when we were young. So with that kind of meditating on earlier love and kindness, it helps us to aspire bodhicitta minds.
뭐야 저저 대체장 딘데 영운데 당안속에 가르세 그래 무유 첨부 딘데지 신체네 지 팔라 포바 간세 때한다보다 돌로지 내가지 요아선다보다 딘데 장지 마임바체네 당안속에 배디 동해를 땐도 타와지 제국고 누 상상다보다 무유디 인데바 손장 덴더위 셈데 레벨라 레라포요 말에 셈제라 제와 히고 요고와다 셈제 참마데 소소다 네포 히고 임바다보지 데 조투바 이나 아나 콘조게 체도 가리네 제통에데 차고 여러와 데임바 손자 제와라 공히 구고레스 제와라 공구고레스.
So once we have familiarized with what is indeed true love, so once we have familiarized with it, then it will be much easier for us to show it to others, to all sentient beings.
대체 다 대용데 잠만에 델 가르송 거라서나 당긴가노서 지가 쇼로가 쭈바텔라 가르시고도서나 준데 맹아 듄지 권을 로장소세난다 아마 마게 타이베 마게 셈제 탄제데 소소라 까딘 쳔보다 소소라 제와 용해지 임비 차네 어느 콘소 두바이나 소소 데보주나 가르펜토 요레 데임바 손자 콘소 등에레 쪼야게 체동에 상주게 센제기 인세데 상주게 센제단 지레스.
Yeah, so one of the practice of Bodhisattva cultivating bodhicitta is the strong aspirations to alleviate the sufferings of others, because what is the use of your own happiness if others are still suffering? So that kind of a strong desire within you is a way to awaken your bodhicitta mind.
Oh yeah. 텔라 시당 안으로 용나로라 타니데 가르송 거라서나 준데 맹아 든지 고네 로 장소셀라 그래 다 상주고 생고라 로종 제탄도데 인지 돈 갈라셔나 준데 맹아 든 생라버들
알레레 따티 카보르 힌사마레
게 말다 티게 말에 준데 맹아 든데 젤랑 손데 젤 다 당기 효로가 주지 주어라 와라 주지디게 가르세 거라서
12th stanza.
동해 말류 다된 되래 중 조베 삼제 임펜 센레 총 대셔 다데 연지 동해 다 양다 제와 자세 라린 인송어와 다 나랑 쫄 동해 용데야다 까뇨 용데야다 잠블린디칼 테스타디 효당함서 란사하고 그래서 동해 가와 용구도 따데 잠바네 란치부 대완 되데야 티기 동해 용데와다 세퍼레스.
So all suffering comes from the wish for your own happiness. So that he was explaining, elucidating, defining it. Okay.
셈제 탐제 대원 되대분게 멋지르기 차기야 바이나 파야 동해촌 조시그 말했을 때게.
So someone who has a strong desire for the happiness of all sentient beings, then that person will not be able to do any harm to others.
tende imba sonsam dunge de kawa yungundu sem ke dunge inare luk dunge zoya te inare teso ke karan dosena zo ranchi bo sano tane ranchi panzin bi chinzi ranchi bo dewan de tende ke wange ane dik khona ke chedo lega chewonde ane yen lo podun ro nan ro yen khena he moge khena he mei tsina tsi kawa dabna dab singe zonda de le ngorwa te yonde ane shawan ramada tsaya de le onde dunge mambo tewale de gores.
So all suffering arises out of your own selfish interest, and perfect Buddhas are born from the thought to help others. So therefore, exchange your own happiness for the suffering of other. This is the practice of Bodhisattva.
다 조비 상지 임베센을 총세 자수와 다 주된데 히자 자수와 다가라래 상지 그 공부하는 보체데 옌을 파 편세 제고 상사 그 로텔라 되는 제고요레스 안에 된데 임바 송자 나랑 쪽에 라네데 가르게 고레세나 옌그 동에 때다 수속의 대원이 될파 제볼로 투야게 생휴 더와지 받을로 장고 거레세다 대신 다데 옌지 동에 다서와 양다 제와 송로와 랑게 대와데 옌을 째고나 째 통의 그 로직 옌그 동에 때 라니를 출 렘바이나 레야지 요바이나 렌 통행다고지 생휴 든데지 그 로직 장토로 제바이나 안에 삼주 생제 투레스.
So if you can think of how you can take away other sufferings in exchange of your own happiness, so that kind of mind is indeed the practice of bodhisattvas, very strong desires of alleviating other suffering.
데레다 딜 다게 냠제지 고네 로장와세요 다다 옌게 대원 더바다 등에 먼저 봐 진송이 베차네 로데 장네 아나 옌지 등에 커렌 통에 그 로지 제바이나 때텔라 상주그 셈시 왔다.
Yeah, so that is the practice of bodhisattva, like your exchange, exchange of your own happiness for the suffering of others.
때든지 딱 코나바 쪽에 투상 가르 코르송 생라 가르샤서 대추 송게 제로제다는 간서 야마지 제나 파조 참말라 지 라용 것스.
So I will open it to all others to share your own insights and thoughts on this, and in that way we will have a more interaction.
Very good. Thank you very, very much. I'd just like to introduce the idea, maybe somebody can comment on this, that with the altruistic motivation that we recite every day in our opening prayers and the action bodhicitta prayer are the two prayers, I think, that really bring these ideas, what Geshe has been talking about, to have the aspiration for bringing enlightenment or helping other beings to recognize their enlightenment and so on, and then to with the activity of doing this with all our energy, with our body, speech, and mind. Everything that we do is aimed for the benefit of helping other beings to recognize that, and through that it helps us to stabilize our motivation, our intention to be a bodhisattva. So would anybody like to pick up on that theme, or maybe you have something else you'd like to add, so we can have a discussion about this? Okay. Yes, Bernie.
Well, okay. It says here, exchange your happiness in number 11. Exchange your own happiness for the suffering of others. Generally, when I hear that, I think of the practice of Tonglen, or this verse specifically about the practice of Tonglen or not?
Dorji, will you ask Geshe?
What is Tonglen?
Tonglen.
Tonglen, the practice of
Oh,
breathing
Tonglen.
in.
Okay.
Tonglen,
Oh, yes.
Tonglen.
Okay. Yeah. So is that the practice of Tonglen?
Oh yeah, so asking Geshe that, and is Tonglen a deeper practice, or is it just any exchange where one is giving of themselves in order to help other beings and so on? Is that Tonglen, or is Tonglen a much more focused and deeper practice?
Tonglen jojo. Tanda di tsitama di to sonrwa. Deshir da de yin che dunghe tha yangda jewa jase lale yinsir. Da ki dewa che yin che dunghe che teni di jebu loya dawa che yoba ina jebu lo thungi ke sem di yoba ina asilarwa ta tonglen se na tere. Tena jechun lama thuje che majun ruwe didri dunghe kun malui tata dala mingpa ta da ki degi yin la tangwa yin sonrwa. Pena cha shaba ina nganzo ama di tsu ki ka na kecha di legi dowa. Pugu suso ki pugu chung chung kamanda wada pugu di tsu na yung di tsambane ama di tsu ka na rangi meba kara hyongo di sena. Aho tati nga na yaro chena tata yin nangi nondo su seya zonda. Ana ama kashi ki nyi je pugu nga la hindo di kara songo di sena. O tati hitang pe korin churo sons. Pe sa sons nge pugu ma hina tata yin ngara hina tata yin singe zonda. Tende ama di tsu tende songo erta. Ama tsewa chewa yunge di tsu. Tende yin di tsambane che tsam. Tende we tanda tonglen siya di shanchu sembe ki sem di tende we ama hya tsabu di ki sem di rabu tanda chi. Ta tele tando sem jang shanchu yin di tsambane ne se de togurwa. Wa tende chi ta.
Dorji, you are muted.
Yes. It is a type of Tonglen, as you said, in the sense that wishing exchange happiness for the suffering. One case I would like to point here is some mother. They have a very strong desire to wish the end of suffering for their kids. For example, when a kid is going through a particular pain due to illness or injury or wound, so the mother tend to express saying, okay, how I wish that this pain or this injury is on me instead of on my child. So the mother, truly have that kind of a deep desire to alleviate the sufferings of others. So this is definitely an example of Tonglen.
Cheza ti tusanchi kari yegu sana ngarang su nguye ne chula chagya pa ina yenga natsa rani ki lenya yo mare rangi dewa yenla tres ke yo mare ta. Te meba de ngarang su nyongwa ta tongchu ku toni chu denjo re dewa. Ina ya semdi jangarwa, semdi mida maso na sen ta chobo yenga dunga de ta rangi takhi kandechi mato kandechi chegwa ina ya yenga dunga meba zoya de ngarang genji kugwa samsang ke tenda wi loji chegu gu yana genku ku lodi chi chegu na ana sem tende hitsabu tende jangu gores yenla tsewa hiule gu gores kanda yenla tsewa hiu chenbo
So
yenga genku chetu mar kanda.
So in reality, it is very impractical for the exchange of happiness for the sufferings of others. However, our mind is extremely powerful. Our mind is extremely powerful, and when you have that kind of a strong desire, strong aspiration in your mind, and then you cultivate with that kind of thinking, and so when you really have the genuine love for someone, then your mind will be inclined to think it in that positive way. So it is only possible when you have a genuine love for the others, being end to their sufferings.
tende yimba songzang tonglen di kechenpo tsi reese, ane te yimba songzang pena yang te nganso sangno chi kar tangwara sena, pena nga dawa ina nanyu yo, chanyu yo, kangi chenpo tende ya nanyu yo, tende nabi kapto la suso ku dunge te nga la chibu kharcheni yungure samsanda bata, dunge te nga la tari tusun tende chela kharcheni leba ina male na tata ina samsanda bata, tende sangno tanya ka chab te la tari nga la dunge chi chungso, nge dunge te ke nge ama re pala re tachi reyo re nge ke tha nyebu meto sola mayungba che kochyo banda chi chungro chana ten ridde sare samsanda tende samno tangyo soso la kangi chungwa nyungwa ane samno tiya samno yapo chi lewa ane kare ina sen la tokyu yode nge tende ke yang kare pendo yungbo res.
So a personal experience I would like to share is like when I am inflicted with a disease or had a health problem which became very severe. So I have this kind of thinking or wishing that my sufferings, along with this infliction on me, I would also bring the bad fortunes of my family, my those loved ones. So when I have that ability to think in that way, it kind of lessens the burdens on me, and also lessens the pains that I'm going through. And so, therefore, as earlier mentioned, this Tonglen is a very, very powerful tools to bring some kind of relief to you and to your mind as well.
tende yonde nganso tonglen seya ki sem ji yorwa tonglen seya ki sem digan do dini xeba ina susolo dunge chenbo yona dunge churu tang yagarela dunge rimbo yona dunge thuru tang yagarela suso ki luda seng ki dunge ki susolo nekhu te chene arma tenwa zo nga tende kasolo mayimba chi ar tende nge chi ta chi ti nagi yona ya chi lelo de tunge tende chi chaya tende yosares.
Yeah, so this Tonglen practice is extremely powerful, has the ability to make big things smaller, like a very, very kind of something that seems to be something that you can't manage, you will be able to manage it. So this is a very, really good practice.
Yeah, tende da wachi ti bani la. Yanjo.
Thank you, Bernie.
To follow up on that question, the Tonglen, is the Tonglen a practice where a Bodhisattva, someone who is on the Bodhisattva path, would give their resources, give money, give material things to someone in order to help them with their suffering? Or is it more of a meditational process that the Bodhisattva is going into a meditation and is trying to exchange the energy within themselves, within their body, speech, and mind, with that person who is suffering? So they may not be directly aware of what it is. It doesn't have a material aspect to it. It is a meditational practice.
Mm.
And then we'll get to Kunga and Matthew, who have their hands up.
Tanda de son so tanda de kori ge son ya de Tonglen se de chi ngoni tani pa tawang da chon le wa se de ngu bo thoni ke me ba yin ya ti ya chi gom da wo chi sang sambi ge kheso tindi da gom je nyamne da tindi rang ge thoni chi yimbe inas khari inas.
제가 단다 간소 대진도와 단다 짐바 땅 세안로 또 중원에 여들어와다 짐비게 냥내 세안로 또 쪽파 여들 단다 가라조 토메 때네 달라 제와제 마나 두나 람디 찌히 자르세야 되다 찌체 안에 तेना जेचुन लामा तुजे जे माजुन रुवे दिद्रि दुंगे को मानु दादा दाला मिंबा थांसे ने जेंगे दुंगे रान ला मी रंग देवा जेन ला फा तों से या के तंदे कुनो से या जोरवा ता तेचो ngaso lo jangdang ji ran re ma to ngene ki che me ba de se bo res.
So there are things that you can physically impart, such as generosity and so on. However, the other things that's more of a meditative process, as Brother Lenz explained, that is exactly true. So it's more dealing with your own thinking, your meditative process.
Very good, thank you.
Tonglen ke lo la yapu jangba yungi mi ji le cha shin che la ne yin ge che do la kar tong ya yo ba cha sang da tong tu nge ji ma to den de me ba yin na ngam so nang ju se na ge jing de che ne tong ya yo ba yin na tong mu tu nge ji cha do do.
Yes, so someone who even it can also be applied to physical separations. Like when someone is really in need of something, how you are willing to part with what you have for the happiness or to help that others. Sometimes, you even if you have that kind of ability, you might not be able to part with it. Yes. What did that?
Lala.
Oh, didn't do so. Yes, so that is like some parts you can part with it, others you might not be able to part it. Brother Lance?
Okay, yeah, so I understand. Should we move on and ask Kunga to, he has his hand up. Kunga, what did you have on your mind?
Yes, I was thinking about verse 10. When your mothers who've loved you since time without beginning are suffering, what use is your own happiness? And it made me think about this idea of interdependence and how if we think about how everything that we have in our lives is dependent on other beings. It can be the food that we eat, it depends on the people who harvest that food and get it to the stores. We can think about the places that we live. It depends on other people to build those places, to work at places that give our house electricity and heat and water, those types of things. We can think about our jobs, whether or not, we're dependent on other people to come to pay us for the work that we do or to be our clients. And so in a way, these people are acting like mothers towards us because they're providing us what we need to survive. And that's another way to consider why we should be wishing for their happiness. Thank you.
This song verse when your mother's sufferings you have loved since time without beginning are suffering. This song Kong Dil Janan Digamentos, Kansangan, just for the Mesidi Chigl Chitin Dawochi, Tent Tinde Dawochi Chadik Duas, Pena Kala Susul Kalanda Wuchi Impaine, Chirapaine, Kala de Yongdant Kandide, Toma Winnie Suk Tapare, Anitaninia Sugia Karsugrechi, Tonto dia de Ruare, Anitanini Keonchi, Anitama Tama Susula. Tebokan Leon Suechi and Sajo, but Nida Wuchi, just saw that Metsin Kanza, Chil Tidin Shubutanchi Impala Tencheni, Junsi Tendichi Tony, Tatangan Su Tony Senare, Ani tanda tso nyanga de tendi junior hakwe gweji mentors.
Bemsia Bondo, Tuji Chechu. Kunga Nimaka Somba Nashi Jene, Naranzo Temjin, One Juma, Seattle, Sano Yapoje Town, Kowachi, Chatosi, Cheundu. Ananganzo Wene Tane Tos Male, Naranzo Narje Teta, Tendrik not Songan and Rochala Nugu, Ningu Tegi, Susokun Juang and Jodomato, Pegeti so Ropanda, which is Chayo Panda, which Anzo Nanju Sano Tichuna Tangaman was. Hingba Dapo, Hinga Mata Vata, and a tenetsu wondering Ching, so Mao Pata, and a Chonkan doing it to Son Tata Matum, but which Imba, Nanzola Saya, the Kangan Tea Imba was Cheran Soma Nashi. Curry around to Sunny Kahila Zamba Karasa or Joshi read the concept Pandoya Sonda with the Curry Kasi Gunga Conce Hion Pandoya, the Gunga Saju Marang is on the Chado Cheswa. Then they change the Gunga Sojon Chinga, Chasanda, Nanson Jeva Hiu Yopata. Nanso Susu Chibuka Kake Chia Mepata, Chila cheating in the Bata, Yanda Sama the Suso cutting in the Bandawachi, Johnson Goni Seba in a Setan, the Cherang Setan, the Yapore has Tagara.
So you are absolutely right in terms of interdependence and the significance of it. However, sometimes we take for granted as such, like for the grocery, we just go there and pay, and as if like we are entitled to something, and without really ever thinking how it comes into that place. Recently, in the United States, there's a huge kind of inflations for the price of egg that has gone up so much. So at that times, when we are unable to afford much of eggs, and when there's a shortage of supply, then we should tend to realize like how it is happening and where it is coming from and so on. So the ability to think through the views, through the perspectives of interdependence, really makes everyone so grateful, be kind and helpful and respectful to each others. So this thinking of interdependence as we live our life is a very, very sound approach to life.
When Tagaran, Sano Yapo, Tange, Champo Tranha Sano Tange Jimba Ina, Susok, Saju Tonju, Konju, Desa Yenchen Zundene, Yela cutting it and Deva Menjo, Chalanachi Ragmund was. Tende Imba Sonsa Tang answer did send the Chibula Sano Tangu was. That Serangemata, Sera Gemata, Tende Mambola Sano Tambaina, and the Saint Sama the Ran and Deva Yobata, Ran la Cutting Imbate, Tenepa. Charangi tangi sem gondang taga rang tone pa jacher tons waina anu sama chinju sama tang to dus.
So even though we are thinking only for this life, but interdependence, if we try to expand it away, then it will be able to reach out to all sentient beings as how we were dependent on each others. So it's a matter of how we stretch it from our imaginations.
Mojo tende da wachi ane yanjo karadu tha. Matthew gala pachand.
Matthew, yes, Brother Lance?
Okay, thank you very much, Kunga. Matthew, would you like to comment? What is on your mind?
Yeah, I have three questions that all about the same thing, Dorje. So maybe I'll just like kind of give one at a time to make it like easier to translate.
Thank you, Matthew.
And so one, so I work as a therapist, as a mental health therapist, and so I'm talking to people about kind of their inner thoughts and problems and these things that are really difficult for them. And a very common thing, and has been a problem for myself as well in my own personal life, are these feelings of self-hatred and shame and aggression towards oneself in one's mind, that kind of beating up on oneself and cruelty to oneself in one's mind. These feelings that so many people walk around with at least in this culture, of feeling inadequate, not good enough, unlovable, these kind of things. So that's the topic that I have a few questions about. And my first question is that something that was present traditionally in Tibet, that thing I'm talking about, or in other cultures, or in Eastern cultures, maybe something like that? Or is that something that is more unique to a kind of modern Western culture, society?
Yeah. Mati kuni de songo tanda Koran dewa sumyo tambu de dins tambu de pena Koran tanda de senkam tanda ropa shinis na tanda mental therapist sondi ta console menche da senkam ge tol ta menche ge tindi ge tol ko ropa hin ki tindi jinis ro chale tindi jinis ta ini Koran nguni gi ya chanchala Koran di chwa ji yongdu spena susula karine ji dangi heba ji mepa ani susula migi tsewa tena tserin tsewa terin choba mepa samsanda wochi da ani susula susu rangla susula ji tsewa da gahin de mede anda wochi da ani sempala ji ngaje kontro segure dopchungda wo tindi ji chona yongde tindi da woji kapkola 용구도스 코란제 아니 켐바든 솔로 든디다고치 누스 코그다 생칸 든디 로바 헤사 메든 솔라 딘디다 든디기 초난제 데야디 야치 츠초 켐바라 든디다고치 찌충다고치 이나 야 든디기 찌초 아리나올라 야 든디기 미세 만다와데 진 차고다 든딜라 땡시니 아리나올라 티 마완다고치 이나 티 간다이나스 담보드 데레
nge khori ge twa tambo tel khatu ba chama zo ge ra chu che zang tanda di cheri ge tanda di ju yor wa nge sang na khori ge yen le sem khang go ko la roba chenge yin ba che kare kare le su so ge yen le pha roba doba khaya zon da chi 제투 마손 삼산다고 든디게 생게 왕게 아니 소소소소야 지 레텐데 두구문두 삼산다고 텐데한다고 소소소소를 제와 매된조 고무 쳐원다고 지 든디게 용소 용고야 사례도
so
든데다 지레두가
is this right? My understanding is that you, as a mental therapist, in your effort to help others to cure, and then in that process, sometimes you feel yourselves is inadequate, and with that you have a kind of a feeling of not lovable and so on. Is that correct in my understanding?
That could potentially come up at times, but for me, for myself, I'm thinking of like, this is what my clients are telling me, the people I'm working with, these are the feelings they're having in their life, of these feelings of like not being lovable, of being terrible, and they say terrible things to themselves in their mind and insult themselves in their mind and like that kind of thing. And for myself, it was more kind of earlier in my life. Still sometimes we'll have these kind of feelings, not necessarily with the work thing for me, but certainly like kind of growing up, I developed this depression and this real sense of self-hatred and everything. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Kuni tanda di sunya du sama Koran ge lega che semkang roba shesa hieba hesa yin yu mit so le res. Console di kanga ta di te de do pena su le gashen me ba su le ji chadang da ji control da de le ji kuri gi roba hesa semkang roba hesa mit so le kanga de te de do ko di ji tong do ta di deng du gi ji so le den ji ne deng da wo ji yi na ya ji kar se bre wo ji so shen ba la ya de na hi ji chung ji yue de re sta mit so le kanga te de bi ne dang de kanga zhuo gu re do
야 저저 하고 잡았어 따티 담보데 ngaranzo 수소 그 네벌 가히 명예지 차한 거로 와 소소 le gabo meeting e zonro 소소 le zewa meeting e zonro 소소 kanke munjung e rawo muning e rawo te soso ke metsele ndodine hena soso ke metsele nimbo menjo zonro chi tende chi thong khorang zo ko chona le unro le devi kap tela te du zabza ma je wa ina ane tende ki ri kha che chi ge ane rangshit jab de rawo ta tende ke nyanga yung de dos ane tati shita arichibo kere mendo se te kasa kalan di du se te zamali chasang la jeka kasa kalan du se yue de.
So the situations that you have encountered with your patients is not only isolated to confined to the United States or in modern America. I have seen it and witnessed it just happening across culture, across nations and races. So it's all over places. So when you mention sometimes like those people who feel that they are not lovable and they thinks of there's no meaning in one's own life, then that is a pretty kind of extreme case. So when those people who feel like that their life is meaningless, then it is very urgent kind of cases because it is those people who commit suicide are the one who feel that their life has no meaning and that's what they ended up with.
저 대인들 잠만에 제장 나라서 그 되게 단다 처랑 그 송대 그 셈게 나차 주여와 로종 영해라야 두스 주 영해라야 두스 왕 영해라야 두스 단도 대장 마체 나라서 지 쇼소 그 내면나도 소라 디 용데 그 두스 대나네 장다 전부 장상진이 휴바이나 완전 잡아 나로를 차게나야 잡아 카힐 나사디 여딩에 된데 용군도라 양 잡아 랑히 잡아 레존 된데 야 랑히 제비된데 네수 용구여레스 된데 용데 잠반에 체장 안한서디 아리지보 말디 가사칼 요레스 다이나야 망용데 체바티스 요헤체스.
Yeah. So this feeling of hopelessness that you describe is not only in America, but it's everywhere. And not only it is everywhere, it also transcends social status, education levels, also like those people who are poor or those people who are even rich, and even it'll also it is even exist in monks as well. I have seen monks who feel hopelessness and so on. There were a few cases as such. So therefore, this is a phenomena that kind of affects or attached impact people across all walk of life.
다 콘소그 안소그 도시 힌주 제바다 지체 냠뇨 영에게 라마 시친 담바게 만체와 당 안에 삼지기 최나로라 가르송게 그래서나 콘소기 동해디 지불을 산노 땅데 동해디 수소그 강라 추 여체 매체데 추룩 되게 수수 추 내주 동해들 파 당야 여바지다 콜로보와 임바지다 젠 야와지다 태야게 레와 메덴존라고 지다 젠 야와다 태야게 산노 마똥에 존라고 지다 니마데 거르거르 timba 나로로 판 준도 그래데 거르거르 timba 파 당제네 니마 왜 사차차 통하 요래 던데게 산노 추는 마땅와 제네 둥에 테마 찔레와다 딱 가두 이나 둥에 되게 냠샤그레 따텔 타타 추는 문도 산노 던데 부서 도버지 땅 왕게네 강에디 용디 거레스.
So the problems of those people who are having scenes as no meaning in their life is someone who feel overwhelmed by the little changes in their life, or for positive or negative, and so they find this kind of a little bit of suffering overwhelming. So it has a lot to do with one's own mental attitudes. Like So once you lose hope, and then you think, okay, once, for example, if something happens to you, then you think that is the end of the world, and then you see there's no light at the end of the tunnels. So therefore, this is very, very difficult. But in realities, as we see, sometimes we see the sun, and sometimes we see the sun is clouded by clouded. So therefore, there's always silver lines at the that kind of things really help us to think more positive ways. So if you have no positive thinking, never be able to look at it in a more optimistic way, then it brings more sufferings and problems.
근데 인도 시당
Okay?
알아 라죠.
Alors, on croit ni pas soigneuse, tu es son dame.
라라 네 단다 디칼 티스켜야 돼. 시당 알아서 가디나 가르상교에서나 ngaranzol zambu gu shodela susol chungro cheba ina ta ngaran samal guju da gaju de rediora esip chetu go ro ngelen chigo yorwa ngelen cheba machete gane chukala tando nga sasani yoro chena tada yin samsa ji yungorwa ta ngembe shone te ngaranzol kare kare mugu sana chamchang le lewe ji yorwa chamchang le jibu tande khatu to wala chamba na yungore chamchang le jibu tangsa to wala thang che yungore tende ji re onde ko ngembe gu sho de la kare kare ngarang zu zana no ru du yunge ge de za de su bu te hyo jen su bu chama ma re de yung gu wa ta yina ya de yung cha wi xin che de la ko ngelen che gu res ma to ngala ma yu na ta ta yin chi 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 ma yu cho ga sang sang da de sem de la po so to bo che ana te dungye de ngelen che ma tu ba che sem gen sem kan la chu tung ana sem ge kang ye wang ge ana kang ge gang ju ma ju sue sha ge do wa dende yung de zamba de sem de la kadu yina su so ke tu da te cho cho ji ma yin ba ji sem de tembo ya po ji ne tu gu ya dende ji da ngelen che gu sa la ngelen ya po che tu nge de dende ji jong da tu gu ore sing arang so
So in such situations, one's own mental stability is a key. And most of all, acceptance of sufferings, acceptance of loss, defeat is a key to face the challenges, keys to solve the problems. So because we are so happy when something good happens, but then when something bad happens, we can never accept, we can never kind of agree to it. So that is when more problem arises. So therefore, the biggest answers to this kind of issue is the ability to accept.
kashi pe cho sabo dende do wa se ritzel za go gu du nima gan chu chogo mundu chapa gan dung chogo mundu kan kom chogo mundu tni chi ne ina ter richelen zage in se lawa ina ne tis chi kare ina luda munthim ba da was ti indi samane rithombo chilen zagu yana nima ya ti chi ba ina ya ngene che thunge chi chapa ge bamba ina ya ngene che thunge chi tende ka so la suso rikanan zaya ge dechi te ran sano tan che ne yanda tis la kare ina yogo ya chi yorwa ta ti zon ra gu go res ngarang so meche rimbo te la meche de yu rimbo chi chibo chi che gudu sambane naya chaya ina ngene che thu ya kare ina mi ge chinyembo menjo laso na ya ngene che thu ya o chi chi kare ina mi ge chi kar se gora chi nan ju ngemba chi ten so na ya chi ngene che thu ya donle che thu ya tende chi mese te la ta di gugu yor was.
So, for example, if you need to climb up a mountain, and but you are you don't want to have any kind of sunburns, you don't want to be drenched by rain, you don't want to get tired, exhausted, and so on. So that will not be possible. But in order to reach the zenith of the mountains, all other kind of by product will definitely follow with it. So therefore, the most important thing is the ability to accept, like as things comes with it, and then you will be able to enjoy like for a long-term happiness and long-term this things, comfort. Because this is the nature of our life. Like our life is not always a bed of roses.
Tati nga nyamnyu
Okay.
yo. Tanda chi karasana ngarang su sen le kange yo dinge metu chola pan rekhe jadu tambo langsa te laju mundus. Cho kange chenpo rekha o kange rekha gunda kha me seya zonda te lagu gudus. Mato chu te da dunge ke mare dunge de ngule che gura singe zonda te tambo ne te lawai na ngancho ke kol phya ga chala nesa res ko anjuna ten dosa mare samsa tinga dus.
Yeah, but I know on a practical level, like when you are treating your patients with those people who have those kind of sufferings, you should be able to empathize with them. You should be able to say sorry that they are going through that, because otherwise, if you just go ahead and say like acceptance is the key issue, like if you directly confront them with such kind of a philosophy or thinkings, they might not accept it. It might be hard for them, but you have to have a clever approach in solving that problem.
제가 nge chowa la kar chong sena kange chenpo yo dinge meju yorwa ta ko kange chenpo ke kol kange ngene yo si bare kange samsang la chung ji ma to meba ina khora thom je ne kange chenpo zoe je ne ko ngwe de gwe chi ta khora ji bo me de gwe tende ji yong de de se tele so so gen dewa jab di ina re kol ke je he du ina re samsang la nyang do ngo gu shu na ngo gu ya da ndo du ne hena ko gu chowa na la so so de pa chowa de zui je ne na kale kol robaji chena ne roba chetu ya kokanda de yawa de yungu ya sares pento de.
So probably the best way to is put yourselves in the position of the individuals, and with that kind of approach, then you might be able to help them more effectively. Thank you, Matthew. You can go ahead with the second question.
Yeah, my the one other thing I wanted to ask was that if someone is has this kind of hatred for themselves, aggression towards oneself, and they're walking around thinking thoughts like, saying to themselves in their mind, "You're so terrible, you're horrible, you're worthless, you're, all of those things, fill in the blank." Is that person creating the same or similar karma as they would if they were directing that towards people outside of themselves? Is that same quality of mind, of that aggression and hatred and lashing out, when it's directed at themselves in their own mind, is that the same kind of karma or karmic results they would get if they were doing that to other people?
Tanda de tanda susula chi susu gashen me pa susula shenpa lo de da ani susu la shedan da ani tanda de nga yapo me ani nga ki ka ki peme re go me chen ki re se tindi ka sano chi da ani tindi cheni gi mid gi chi dan khura rang la susu la chi chede gi yore de ani ti gi kamas li jundi da bo chi sagu yorwa ti li jundi ta mi hemba la Japan shi li jundi do su saung gwere kanri res ta kanda mitindi gi sano tindi tande gi midi susul chidan che susul ran yin pa ne ya ta mi yemba la Japan shi gi tindi gi le de sagyo na kanri nas
te nga towa de sebo ya bongo che masa ta susul magawa
Dwa diresha susul tatanda di susul magak shedan yonde ki ngala chi nga chomenjo resha andindama da susul pe dubu sanotong de ni chi yorwa chita sanotong de tonya de susul rana re de yorma to mi hembal mare esrwa susul rana de insan de yores ta ina ya kamas le jundi saya de mi hembal heba di jundi sagor mi yen che ne susulu cheba di mi yen la cheba na shi gu susulu lengen ba da san gu na kandinas
akosa ndo dini hena jojo tereda te Matthew ke pe misik twa ngemba ting saborda rang ki me yin seba ina le ngemba sagarwa ngaro to mgewi lerwa sochu ke le sia de te nang hi rang ke me yin seba le rang rani seba ina rangso che jorwa te pe de len tsap chewa yore songor pen cha cha na
Yes, so
ya
so Matthew, this is a very important question because, for example, of course, when you commit atrocities on other people, you are committing certain sins. You are committing a sin, bad sins. But at the same time, if you will also commit aggression toward yourselves, you are also committing more or less the same sins. So, or if it is even considered as more heinous. For example, like if you murder or if you kill someone, of course you are committing something very bad karma. But at the same time, if you do it to yourselves, then that's also more serious ones as well.
do didi huba ina kare insana chujo suso ge mulu de za chengbo rwa me yendang le ringtang yo bana yi suso le ngone ringtang yo rwa me ge ngara so me changma la ringtang yo rwa de ringtang yonjo de la ko ge ringtang me bata wa ma che suso le tongchung je suso ge me che de chola tang ba ina me chi ge me che chola tang ya go rwa de yin de zang ba ni chosho ni xie ba ina de chö da tung go yo ma re 단 지대 지촌나로 해당 제바이나 미 타찬도 부지 차르 효르와 대 제당의 찬에 딱 뭐그 찬에 다가라레스
Yeah. So because all lives are precious and purposeful, but if you have this kind of a feeling of worthlessness, aggressions towards that individuals, then that individual is dragging down his own dignity and worthiness. So therefore, it is even from a religious belief point of view, it's not worthwhile. And equally, as we live in a society, then also view the same thing. So that is a very, very unwelcoming kind of actions.
당한조 단다 마티오 그 차로 휴디기 요바 된나기게 나한조 샹주 그 셈다 연편다 제와냐네 제디게 머질 따바이나 다 콘선저버지 수소 년콜레 레소나 콘소 페메 소로 제간지 메싱에 수소 머체 촐라 땅에디 레상사게 든데게 따당레 로수지 다 콘소 아카 샤차 니제 당원에 전에 콘솔로 로바지 마지는 술제 상상다버지 nganso ko ngene chagya paina ta khonso nganso chal le onde nganso le thegya mede roba cheggu sam mede yin samsan da tende ge thone pa khatsa nyebo go thone ta pa kantu chitu de chegu go res.
Yeah, so whenever encountered with such persons, then our thinking should be like these are the people who really in need of help, and then they are really the one that I should help with the utmost dedications and commitment. And with that kind of motivations, it is a very you're cultivating very good karmas and bodhicitta for yourselves.
Ane tende ge ya 1 minute tende ge ngara zo ge yen lo ropa ya po chegu san che ge chesing ge gunhong da mang gi da ji sang cha chang yö ding ge mede le nyam do gar go re sana zogon de nge pa do go res ta tende ge met so ge choka la chopa kab da du ge khon so kang ye yö me nang so go wang ge choka la chopa gar yin na lo si ge res tende yin de ngang so ge te ka to te la zogon de go ge res zogon tsa ma che nganso la tikha tu tila zunru di gugu yores kare sena nganso ko khonso la cheya di chabdun tsa je mare khonso kange tili cho gugu yoba son tsa kange tili cho cho pa to che tuwa che guwa samne teya gagi cho ki ngane pa cheya tindegi ta zunru di gugu yores.
Yes, so in dealing with such people who feel worthlessness and aggression towards self, then what we really need is patience toward them. And on top of patience, we'll also need endurance, because they are very, very unpredictable, and they can't be handled easily in short terms. So therefore, with the patience and endurance, you will be able to help them out.
다 파신 주가 송거요라 파신 주대 도발의 냐네 제야 요레스 다가 인투체요.
Thank you very much. So this is where the 6 perfections, that's how you can also practice them. You can go ahead, Matthew, with the third question, sir.
Can I ask one quick question about this? Because I think from a professional point of view that Matthew takes in his work and so on, that there is a system by which he can break this down and be able to help his client, his patient, to be able to recognize how they're causing what the causes are for their suffering, and then the way in which that we activate that in our lives, the procession, the process that we go through. So one is like the 6 or the 5 poisons of all the emotions, and then the next one is the process of the 12 links of interdependence. So what do you think about that comment? That there is this system, that there is a method of the 5 poisons as the causes, and then the system in which it's processed, the 12 links of interdependence.
Tanda di nangshu nanglo la dunso tsama dili ji nyalin shetan da dunso tsama pajing da ani ji mambo juyoro wa dunso tsama tata ji dili lalin tata da nyalin shetan dunso tsama tata ndabu ji yoro wa.
Tata yor.
Yes, brother Lance, I completely agree that there's systems, in Buddhism and the practices that you have mentioned.
Brother Lens ke tata di hindo atange hakos. Tanda nganzo pena chesan jase chenpo hiwala ke junju chenpo nanglo la yen le pento chedu zamba ne yen ke chopa rin rami nanso lo yon di zamba ne kabda tuda tende yenche le kar che gu yo me susok lanle kar ke gu yo me kare yang tis domba napo ten gu yo ka ta yang kare domba jangpo ten gu yo ka ta kanri che gu yo me chasan hi ki chawa chi ni kabda tuilu tende pa jani hi chapo sebo song yo res.
Yes, I completely agree that there's a systems that it completely explains how to approach such situations step by steps.
Savi tamjan rawate yengi chedu yimba ngana rangi chachen rawache kanji mebi ke tone ta khol phechi ke chedu rang yimba de avi savi tamjan rawate de gogo yores tamboni.
Yeah, so the most important motivations and the thinking that you need to have is that whatever you're doing is purely for the benefits of the others.
Matthew, do you want to comment on that, or do you want to state your third question that you had?
I don't really have anything to add. And for my third question, it was a lot of it was already touched on in the other questions, and I also want to be kind of respectful of my other group members' time. I know I'm kind of monopolizing things a little bit, but I think I'm good on the third question because a lot of it was already spoken about in Geshe La's other answers to me.
Well, thank you. I think they were good questions, and I think that we all can relate to those questions, and so I think it was good to be able to have that discussion and hear Geshe's input on all of those things.
Yes.
So thank you, Matthew. Does anybody else have any comments or questions that you'd like to bring up at this point?
Tanda jojo ngaji kyocho wache. Tanda ngarang so Matthew ke pege misenkhang la kangi yodinge la roba cheya da khonri ki te physical ko te semkhang ki loso da tende tan dewe ke khonri ki chale che re den do ta teso ngone chane chale yapo hiwi insa res te da nyam do le nge khönde ba kar chong sena nganso ki tanda tenna lo yonjo te nganso ki ta he de go yorwa lama namba so sonjo te nyamnyu yonjo te nganso ko tena ma hyo de go yorwa ngarang zu susol ngone chaga pa na jamchu ko sem da yempen ta yen le pensen da tende ke nyamnyu te se sa go samsa da tende ke ngone yoba ta tende ya lo kompe tang gu ge na lane ngone ti se nyam do tanda de khori ke tanda yen senkhang la lo so te ya ke tende ke ti yoba na yi che ne o tende yob go ya de ngone ke chen bo hyo thong do kar de wa langa la ya man ro de chobo tende ke komo chi si te da ni si te da la du tende lapa cham du tsamba ne suso mate chen ro gya du tsamba ne jel a nge te he der ma to ngala di la len ke ngi di insa mara nge te ngone lo di jangu ya sa mara samsa ten de ya chi suso ko ropa che sa di inji me chi suso pinjan da wo chi phayu chi pan da wo chi yanan zinda chi pan da wo chi yana ti yin de wala gomba chi pan da wo chi yin de gyan da wo chi cha yun de ngone zewi ke lane ngone jing rugu ya samara samsa tele yonso yongro chig dus.
So the Matthew's explanation of how he helps with his clients in dealing with those situations is also a very good kind of a test. It is also a litmus test for practitioners, because practitioners we need those kind of tests. Otherwise, we tend to forget it, in the sense that when you are walking in the streets, you see a beggar who is asking for money, and then if you haven't given any money to that beggars, and then you will come to think and ask yourselves, okay, am I unconditional in terms of showing my love, or am I just showing love only to my relatives, friends, and people who are from my same country, village, and so on? So, or how I am showing my love to all of them. So, therefore, what I want to say here is uh, this is such a good experiment, like situations. It will be a very good experiment. Practitioners will also need to encounter all these kind of situations, and only then it will lead to their realizations and their level of standard in terms of practice and so on. It will also help them to realize if they are hypocritical, or if they are really genuine, if they are really unassuming or not. So this is a very good experience. I wish practitioners will have such kind of a experiment as well as Matthew has gone through.
ane mathi ke charo tila ya nganso ke ngwene chik charang la ya chik nganso ke pen thoya ndaw tende langa shenda ni pen thoya ndaw tende yongsa re na ya chuk nganso la dewa chero che das charang ke tanda mi shenda sem kang la loso ti ropa che ya di kot.
Yeah. So Matthew, if you feel, if you have any other question, if you think there's any other ways that I can contribute and all of us can help in some ways, feel free to reach all of us, because what you are doing is a very noble things.
Yes, thank you. And Kunga has his hand up.
Thank you, Geshe. I was thinking about verse 11. All suffering comes from the wish for your own happiness. Perfect Buddhas are born from the thought to help others. Therefore, exchange your own happiness for the suffering of others. So in reading that, I was thinking, if we combine those sentences together and we turn our wish for happiness into the thought to help others, in a way, then we are combining that feeling of wishing others the relief of suffering and also sharing our own happiness with others. It sort of all comes together. So, rather than wishing for our own happiness, we wish for the feeling to have happiness from helping others. And then through that way, we can develop our Bodhisattva feelings, aspirations, in a way we're kind of exchanging our happiness for the suffering others by wishing to dedicate ourselves to reducing that suffering. Thank you.
According to this song, all sufferings comes from the wish for your own happiness. Perfect Buddha are born from. That is the one, right? The verses. What the tatikol the Quran yan yan the hinda bochi dan Quran koto da bochi karida bochi le mitema song do wala. Ani koto the soya that dig din the anjan de hinda bochi redisha. So the question is, can you repeat the question, sir?
Not really a question, just a
Your
suggestion of
understanding, right?
practice, just suggesting that, maybe a way to overcome the paradox that, all suffering comes from the wish for our own happiness. The way to overcome that is to transform our wish for happiness to the wish for others not to have suffering. Instead of wishing for our own happiness, we're wishing that others not have suffering. We get happiness through others not have suffering. And then by doing that, then that would help us to move forward on our practice, in a way that wouldn't that would be kind of self-supporting, right? Instead of always suffering because I'm not getting my own happiness, I'm not focusing on my own happiness. I'm only focusing on the relief of suffering for others. And then through that, by putting that aside, then I avoid that pitfall, of not realizing a personal happiness that's dependent on things like getting more money, or having the nicest house, or having success in my business. If we kind of eliminate our happiness from things that are just give us personal benefit to those that give others benefit, then we avoid that problem in the first line. Thank you.
Brother Lance, I need to charge my battery, so please give me your time.
Okay. If I can just comment on that for a moment, though, while we're waiting for Dorji. The work of the Bodhisattva is for the benefit of other beings. And that's what satisfies the Bodhisattva. And it's like a refinement. It's like a further purification over and over again, purification through the work and so on. And the Bodhisattva themselves, remember, is a human being. The Bodhisattva is on the path to become Buddha. And there are still issues that may arise. There are still things that may arise in the Bodhisattva's life. And it's through this work that he's able to refine what those obstacles, what those obscurations, what those wrong views might be, and so on. So it's a willingness. It's his work. It's his choice to do that. Whether it's a he or a her, a man or a woman, the same thing. So I think, to look at it that way, I think is very healthy. And we enter that very selflessly, with nothing but altruism for the benefit of other beings. So I'm sorry, I think we lost Dorji.
It makes me think of I've heard the Dalai Lama at times talk about wise selfishness, which is kind of what the idea that Kunga is talking about, in my understanding of what he's saying, of that altruistic wish and helping other people and working for other people is the thing that will actually make us feel happy and fulfilled and at peace in our life. So kind of the wise form of selfishness the idea being is to go to help people to have that kind of bodhisattva, bodhicitta type of mindset or something.
Sure. I'm always impressed by, medical doctors and so on, and the sacrifices that they make in their lives, with their families and their personal lives and so on, that their patients come first. And they may get a phone call, 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and they have to, get dressed, get in their car, and go to the hospital because someone needs their attention right away. So, it's that those kinds of sacrifices are very easy to be able to see, but it's that point, that they dedicate themselves to their patients and so on.
Hi everyone, I'm here. So I was listening, and let me translate it over to Gisela.
Oh, thank you very much.
Sorry. Gisela, this song kunga nimala gi sunga di susu gi ngarang so susu la digi rawa shola ni melam do andi gya madia che semje shemba solia dungi mya shola ni andi do melam gya ni cho shemba jin tan susu la digi ra duros.
다가랑 빼 머시 투지체 수소를 대지 라와 짬마세 대지 대지 첨부라 그랬을 때 빼나 가랑서 가르세나 당게 마티오 그 편제 대송돼서 자름 뭐 지금 면한테 대랑 송돼 그래 단도 텐디게 단도 대지 때 옌을 개와 대와 라와 효세네 라나 대지 라와 짬마세 옌그 동네 때 라니를 용와 효 랑그 대와 때 옌을 용와 효세 그 면한테 개와 짬지 미디 가르이나 고용본다고지 지 미디 코자 첨본다고지 빼데 셈바데 빼 칸짱마 셈바데 양히 자체에 던데 가면서 지 사자 첨보지를 지 가르이나 지 자사 군사 여된조 고용보지 와 대존도지 찬도게 서레스
Gishi stated that he is agreeing with Kunga Nimala, and then the happiness which we received if we pray for the sake of like other suffering to be diminished instead of your own happiness, that happiness which we get would be much bigger, just like Matthew mentioned about His Holiness's altruistic way of thinking and praying. And also if you could pray for the well-being of others in a better way, and then that will be our own happiness which we get would be much lighter and then stronger if we could pray for the happiness of others rather than like happiness of our own sakes.
데 미텔 존센치 요르스 샴바인제 미 옌라 데와 짬장 요로 챤나 something 미지 요르와 ngala dungi ti chungna ke mandu ke cheshu de semji yen dungi majuro chen risar yen deji chungro chen risar sandege medigi semba de pension chepa ina khandre chi yorasana ama puguchi la shamche shiu yodinge ama tige pugode manawa che nganaro chena ya ta lo de dinge jo wo te zon ro chi yores.
And that person who wishes for the who doesn't mind like having a little suffering of their own, but always pray for the happiness of all other beings, can be considered as how a mother, when their child is being suffered, wishing like them being the one who is suffering, not their child, just like that.
Deni zewa hyatsabo yimba den raba kanhila mandravi chade kare yorsena amachi susu bujila jibu chungro chena dewa chungro chena sang hyu chembo sang denge dige bugu dige chedo yang lega yendala yang golo tse ge nyenga chi yores shangchu semba ke tangi semje yen thamje la dewa chungro chena ngala dunge chona ke mandu sang denge sanglo dige golo tsene shawa yendan ramada cheonsa naga chi yomares.
Mother's way of praying and showing love for the sake of their child could lead to like others as well. Like there is a high chance where her this way of thinking could become selfish way, but then the bodhisattvas, the way they pray, the altruistic way of way of thinking, for them will not have like such thoughts.
Dinile cheba yuya de karcha soresena tanda amati susogo pugu chibutela tsewa huchembo yodeyati tsewa tela tsam yores show yores semje 참말라 대화 용로 제나 삼네 단다 장주 셈비게 제와 대당 상주그 셈세야 되라 참요 말이스 예와요 말이스 초리요 말이스 데레 다냥가 함
And then the difference between these two, the mother's love will be limited, like it's only for her child, while the Bodhisattva's altruistic mind was for it's limitless, like it's for the sake of all sentient beings. So that's the difference.
투제체 땅에 디스티 nga랑 그 현대바데 답변 메시지 조절 해라송스 nga 가두이는 기부 효용되게 두스 가딘체
Thank you all. I was really happy that I could share all my thoughts, and this 2 hours of our session is really meaningful, and I'm always happy during these sessions.
가두이는 초안다고지 여라 nga랑서 추로 히버자 생보지 인 삼산다고지 지문에 다니게 셈게 삼수파도 제네 제사게 빼다 린체 때다 채바 나기 센다 근데 현에 디지 칸님보다 찬로 현로 맞도 셈 딜 간다만다 저 히본두스
And then the closeness I feel in our group, and then the discussions we have, everything is super meaningful, and I feel like we are bonded in a really great way, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Tuktuze. Thank you. Thank you, Geshe La. And thank you, everybody, for your comments, your participation, and your interest in everything. Thank you very much. And we'll continue again next week. And I'd just like to say about that, starting on item number 12 all the way through 21 are specific troubles. And so we start talking about specific things that cause suffering, and in the Bodhisattva's life, how the Bodhisattva is able to transcend those sufferings through his work as Bodhisattva. So we'll zero in on that. So if you have time to read that ahead of time, 12 through 21 is transforming trouble. So, thank you all. Geshe La, would you please say a dedication prayer, and then I'll say one in English.
찬세와당 최제 샤바당 제소이랑 꾸시 소완데 개와 중제다게 제사바 탐제 조비 샴주셩오. Thank you.
By the virtues collected in the 3 times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Drikung Ratnashri and all the other great masters who are omniscient, Lord of the Master, Lord of Dharma, masters of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you. Thank you, Dorje. Thank you, Yang Chen. Okay, so we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, bye-bye.